A theme you may have noticed from this channel so far is that although I speak to people within similar roles, I do like to kind of find people with different backgrounds, people that are working in different sports, and also that have kind of taken risks and have something unique about their position. Well, this time I'm reaching out all the way to the other side of the world to speak to Liam Chauncey, who's the first team analyst at Central Coast Mariners. For those that don't know who the Mariners are, they currently compete in the A-League, which is the highest level of professional football within Australia. As always, I'm really excited to learn how things differ from what I'm used to in the UK, so what is football really like down under, and also I know that they've recently qualified for the upcoming World Cup in Qatar. So without further ado, let's get into the chat with Liam. Hello Liam, welcome to the channel. How you doing, mate? You okay?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Chris. How are you?
Good. Yeah, no, I'm very well, and I really appreciate you joining me. So, obviously, there's a big time difference in this. So, I've just started my day, and obviously, as you mentioned, you're just kind of coming to the end of yours, and big sort of 11, 12-hour difference or whatever it is. So, yeah, really pleased to speak to you. And as I kind of mentioned before we joined on, the Australian League is not up there in terms of my expertise. So, I'm curious to learn a bit about that. But again, a bit about your role and stuff in general. So. I did give a slight introduction before, obviously, you joined, but if you want to kind of give yourself a little bit of an introduction, brief overview of what you do, and then we'll kind of delve in a little bit deeper as we go through.
So I'm Liam Chauncey. I'm the A-League men's analyst at Central Coast Mariners in the A-League. I've been doing analysis here for about 4 years now in both the Academy and the A-League setups. This is my second season in the A-League setup with coach Nick Montgomery. He's brought me through, him and his assistant Sergio Raimundo. I've been with them the whole time, and I was an analyst at this club when I started 4 years ago, and I've lived on the Central Coast my whole life, and I was a supporter, so it's my homegrown club, and I love it.
Very nice, very nice. So you mentioned obviously the manager Nick Montgomery. He was at Sheffield. He played in England, obviously, didn't he? He played in.
Yeah.
They played at Sheffield United. So I think I was an analyst years ago and I interned at Sheffield United, and I believe he may have still been playing at that time. So again, it's weird how much of a small world it is that he's now your manager. So no, that's really interesting. So you said there you've kind of done a bit with the academy as well. So if you kind of take it all the way back, Liam, so how did you actually get into analysis? Is it something that you studied over, like, I don't know how that works. Are you kind of, see, when I kind of compare it to the conventional route in the UK, it'll be mainly a module in a degree at university. People will get into it that way, maybe then do a bit of volunteering. How has it gone for you in terms of forging your career?
Yeah, it's very similar here. You start obviously in a uni degree. I did a Bachelor of Sports Coaching.
Yeah.
And there was a degree in it that specialized in analysis, and I just really loved the theory in it and all of that. And I just put a feeler out to the club. I knew a few people here, obviously, through local clubs and all that. So I put a feeler out, and one day the assistant Sergio, he just sent me a text message. Do I want to come in for a meeting, see whether I could help out around the place? They didn't really have much in the analysis space in the academy at the time. And even the first team then, it wasn't really massive here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I started on board then, just filming some games and helping out with some previews and reviews. But sort of how you get into it here. It's starting to grow a bit analysis here. We've got a few more interns coming in.
Yeah.
Like I started. But yeah, it's uni similar way it starts in the UK.
So you've been there sort of 4 years, and is that split evenly between, you did a couple of years with the academy and then a couple of years with the first team? Is that right?
Yeah. So I started in 2019, and I did the 2019, 2020. We did have a season as well after COVID. And then I started 2021 in the academy, and then we had a big lockdown here that was about 4 months. And that's when I transitioned into the first team. But I also, during that first spell in the academy, I also was an intern in the first team with the Analyst here at the time as well.
Okay. So, but in terms of like club experience, Central Coast Mariners, is that the only club that you've worked at ever? So that's your only one?
Yeah. So I've only been here,
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, and then you mentioned obviously the academy. How does your academy similar in size to what we have in the UK? So have you got a full, is it all the way sort of nines to development squad and then first team, or is it a bit smaller? Or how does that look?
So we've got For the juniors, it's called Skills Acquisition Program. I think we call it SAP.
Yeah.
That's from year 9s to the under 12s, and then from 13s, 14s, 15s, 16s, 18s, and then we've got a group that trains separately, and that's the 20s and the 23s, and they're the ones that feed into our first team.
Yeah. Okay. And would you say are you quite reliant on the academy and the young players coming through? Is that what or do you kind of rely on foreign players coming over, or?
At the moment, we've got a fair few boys in our first team that have come through the academy. So I think out of every club in the A-League, we've actually got the most minutes played. In Asia, we were actually number 1 for youth grown players minutes in the first team last season. So that was a big achievement for the club, and Monty and Serge are really happy with the way the development's going, especially because they were academy coaches here. So they get along with the boys well and bred them for the first team. So in the style of play they want to play. So they've sort of fit in perfectly. We've got a few boys that have just gone over to Scotland. Scotland, we've sold 3 players to in the last month and a half. So it's been good for the club because it's hard to sell players from Australia over to Europe. We've done quite well lately with it. So it's been nice.
Nice, good. And then in terms of, your department then, almost, you mentioned, obviously, it seems like you have a good, close relationship with the manager and the assistant manager. So are you, in terms of the first team, are you the only analyst, Liam, or do you have someone working with you, helping you the first team?
I have a guy, Stamati Glaros. He sort of overlooks the program from outside of, he's not here day to day, but he'll work off site and overlook the more budgeting side of it, and helps a bit more with the scouting. So he's a bit older than me and been around a bit. So he's a bit of a mentor to me, and he helps me a lot. And then it's me here day to day. And then we have a couple interns who have started coming in as well. So between the 4 of us, we split the workload and get it done. So it's probably the first time at this club we've had so many people working on board in the analysis space, but it's good to grow.
Yeah, definitely. And you've said like analysis is kind of progressing and growing in the country. So would you, in terms of the A-League, it's not a very big league, is it? There's only, how many teams is there in the league? Is it sort of 12 teams or so? So have all them teams, would they all have analysis in place at the first team level, would you say?
Yeah, so all the teams have had an analyst. I'm not sure if they all do at the moment. I think last season every team did. We haven't obviously spoken with every team so far this season, but I'd be surprised if there wasn't analysis at every club now.
Okay, interesting. So before we actually started recording, you kind of mentioned that you're 3 weeks into your pre-season, which you actually said yourself, it's a very, very long pre-season, because your actual competitive league season doesn't start until October, which does seem quite a long time away. But you do have some, a cup competition coming up. You've got a game this weekend, did you say, in the cup?
Yeah, so this Sunday coming up against Sydney.
Okay, so long pre-season, so obviously lots to plan for. So just to get your perspective in terms of the type of analyst you are, Liam, are you into your data side of things? Are you more sort of technical with the video, or are you a mixture of the two, or how would you kind of describe your kind of analyst style?
My analysis style is sort of with more involved in the video, with the reviewing opponents, then reviewing our games and training and stuff like that. A data sort of comes down to our S&Cs and stuff like that. They more are involved with the data here.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. So, because again, like I'm just trying to compare it back to what I know more in terms of in the UK, and at the first team level, it does seem that opposition analysis is kind of that's obviously the goal is to win the games, and that's kind of what gets you the points if you can study the opponent. So I'm presuming you do spend a lot of time on that. So in terms of that, are you then watching your opponent's last couple of games beforehand, and obviously look at the set plays and stuff?
Yeah, so we'll go back a standard week. We'll do the previous 3 games. And if we can find some set plays they use, we may go back further and just try and get more examples for Monty and Serge so they can see it and use it in training. Then we'll create a preview for the boys for -2 and then show them that so that they can be ready for -1 and game day and know exactly what they're going to face.
And is it easy enough to get like all the video you need from the other games? Is that just stored online, you can get at that, or is it kind of a case of still sending scouts and things?
Here it's okay when we get to the league. because we have a league exchange where a company films all the games tactically, and we can all grab it. It's been hard for this cup game to get some closer footage. Sydney's been hard to get footage from, but obviously they're not going to give it, and their opponents don't seem to have it. But we're trying to get it, but we'll do our best.
Yeah, well, it seems like you were quite, because you described the cup as a cup that's sort of similar to maybe the FA Cup here in England, where it's, you've got your professional teams, but you can get the semi-professional ones in there as well, and you've kind of been drawn against another A-League team, so it's not the easiest to draw for you guys. So good luck with that one, Liam. So just kind of running through your sort of weekly and then sort of leading up to match day. So I'm presuming, with the number of teams in the league, are you mainly just playing one game a week then, Liam? Would that be fair to say?
I think this upcoming season it will be once a week. We struggled last year because everyone was getting hit down with COVID. So the back end of the season we were playing every 3 or 4 days, which was good because you didn't have to. The boys loved it because they were playing every 3 or 4 days. Trying to preview and review a game every 3 or 4 days is tough. The days are long. But I love it. It's great. But yeah, this week it should be, this season, sorry, it should be a game every week. Our draw actually came out today, and it seems to be every week except for around Christmas. They've thrown a few games in together, which is good for the fans and holiday times. Yeah, definitely. So do you have then a set, almost like, I know things can change and with travel and stuff, but do you have a set weekly schedule that you try to stick to? So like you mentioned, like match day -2, you might want to have X, Y, and Z done. So let's say on a Monday morning, what will you be doing at that point? What will you be doing throughout the week in build up to that, into the game on the weekend? So our first day back's the day we review the game. Do that, and then if we say it's a 7-day week, the next 2 days would more be individually reviewing each player's performance, which is more Monty's role. I'll just help him have the facilities there that he can use to show the boys what he needs to show. And then in the background, I'll start working on some previews of opposition, whoever we've got coming up. And then -2 is our day that we present to the boys. And then -1 will present our set pieces so that we can go out onto the training field and do what we need to do there. And then game day, we might also show a little presentation just to hit some key points. Go through the set pieces again. Just let the boys know what they need to do. And
it sounds like what you're describing, that the manager and even the assistant, they're quite involved in the analysis process as well. So they're kind of, although they're doing the coaching and stuff, they are clued up and they kind of help you and assist you in the whole delivery process as well.
Yeah, so nothing will go through the boys without Monty or Serge's approval, which is I think it's good because we're all on the same page when it gets to that point. Yeah, definitely. Perfect. So in terms of then a match day, then are you filming the game, or are you taking a feed, or how does your match day look? We get a feed for all league games, which is perfect because it makes my job a lot easier. So we get a feed in. I'll set that up an hour or so before kickoff, and then just go down and help Monty if he needs anything. Well, not Monty, sorry, Serge. If he needs anything on the pitch for warm up, because we don't have the biggest group of stuff on game day, especially traveling away. But yeah, go help with that. Make sure everything's set up, ready to go for half time as well, with the review at half time if we need to change anything up. And then get up there. We have a constant communication with someone during the first half and second half to get clips down for half time. It's normally the second assistant on the bench that I'll be mic'd up to, and then he'll speak with Serge and Monty if they want to see anything specific. They'll tell me. If I see anything specific, I'll mention it to them and clip it. And then about 40 minutes into the game, I'll come down and have that ready for them. Nice. Similar to what we used to do at the Sheffield United. But that's so you're up in the stand, you're mic'd down, and you can obviously have that, because it just helps, doesn't it, the view that you can get up there, and especially for set pieces and stuff like that. So that's very interesting. So I'm just kind of flicking through the list of questions I've got here, Liam, for you. So you mentioned there actually that for away games you don't always have a huge bank of staff and stuff. So I'll just kind of touch upon the actual travel that's involved. So I've got a almost like a
map kind of thing of all the teams in the league. So there is a few on the East Coast, but then there's a lot of, I mean, just obviously you've got Wellington that's in the league, obviously New Zealand, and then Perth at the totally other side of the country. So, I mean, how long does it even take to get there for you, Liam, to get to Perth?
Perth's a 5 hour flight, which is always fun. And then Wellington is 4 hours, but it's not too bad, Wellington. We did it last year because they were locked down. So they actually were based in Wollongong, which is south of Sydney, for most of the season.
Yeah.
And they had 2 games at home, and we were one of them. So, and we got there the day they opened the borders back up, because you guys would have heard how Australia and New Zealand's borders closed for everyone. So the day they opened up, which was about 3 months later than Australia's borders opened up, we were the first flight in to Wellington. So that was fun getting in there, getting all your COVID tests and all that. But the trip's not too bad. It's just getting through airports and all that. There's a lot of travel involved in flying and all that. But I think we're okay being in New South Wales. We got 4 other teams to play against. So a lot of our games are based in New South Wales. Which is good.
And that's just like, is that just a coach trip? Like, is that where you just travel on a coach and for the near ones?
Yeah. So Sydney is an hour and a half from where we are, and Newcastle is probably an hour. So it's pretty easy on the coach.
Yeah. What is it like? What is it like with COVID over there now, Liam? Is it all kind of settled down and back to almost normal, or?
Yeah. So we don't really have many I don't think we have any restrictions at the moment. The cases have started to spike up a little bit again, but you got to live on with it. So,
and so how did that affect your season? So did you play a full season last season then, or was?
Yeah, we did. We played a full season, but obviously WA's borders were a lot different because every state had different rules here in Australia. So Perth's border was shut to everyone else because they were quite strict on it. So Perth and Wellington started the season based in New South Wales, and I think Perth weren't based anywhere. They were just playing all their away games at the start. And then so we had everyone on the east coast of Australia, so it was perfect for us. But
that is quite. So they literally just moved out of Perth to be able to then play the games then because of the restrictions.
Yeah.
Okay.
They sort of facilitated their work around everyone else, which was really good for the league, but it would have been tough on them. Yeah.
No, that's
An 8-way trip doesn't sound too good.
Yeah, definitely. So that's probably the only really far one then. The Perth, you say, of like a 5-hour trip. Do you play? I mean, in terms of the league, you said there's a sort of 12 teams, and in terms of then qualifying for your version of like the European, not European, but like the Champions League equivalent and stuff. Have you got to win the league to be able to play in that?
I think they've just changed it for this upcoming season that we get one guaranteed spot into the Champions League, which is obviously the UEFA Champions League equivalent. And then there's 2 spots into the AFC Cup, which is the Europa League equivalent, I think, which is in the league. It goes for first goes to the Champions League, second is the AFC Cup. And I think it's the winner of the cup goes to the AFC Cup as well.
Okay. So that cup that's starting next on the weekend, will that be done? When will that be done? Because it's quite early. Like if your season still doesn't start for another, 3 months or 2 months or so, will that be kind of at the later stages at that point, or?
Yeah, so I think the final is scheduled for the week before the A-League starts.
Oh, right. Okay. So interesting. And then is that the only cup you play apart from the league, or would you compete in another one later on?
So we have that, and then we're a bit different here where we have the final series, we call it. So the top 6 teams in the league play off to be in the grand final. It's more of it's something that happens in Australia for most sports, and that's how you sort of determine who's the champions of the league. Okay. So we don't go off who wins the league as much like you do in Europe. Some people do think that's a higher achievement. Your traditional football people think that still, but the grand final is sort of what everyone tries to win here.
It's similar to, I had a chat with an analyst out in in America, MLS, and they obviously have the the playoffs and stuff like that. So I'm just looking at the table from last season then, Liam. So you guys were 5th out of 12, if I'm right, if this is right what I'm looking at.
Yeah, that's.
And then so did that then allow you to then play in the next sort of championship you mentioned?
Yeah, so we played off against Adelaide, who finished 4th. So
Right.
it got down to the final day. We both won our games, and if they didn't win, we would have got the home game and finished 4th.
Right.
So we flew to Adelaide and played them, and unfortunately didn't get the win. But we actually, in the back end of last season, had a very good run. I think in the league we were undefeated 12 out of 13 games to make the finals because we were sitting quite low on the table. Halfway through, we were affected by COVID quite badly, and then had a good run after because we made the cup final last year, but it got pushed back a lot later. We played it in the first week of February, and then we were in a bit of a hole for a few weeks after that, and then we came back and won undefeated 12 out of 13 or something like that to make the finals, which was a good run for a team that we're quite young, but it's good.
The league isn't very old in general, is it? The A-League is what, sort of early 2000s or something like that? Is that
I think it's 2005, 2006 maybe. Was the first.
It's not very old at all. So then last season, then who went on to win the finals then? Like I can see Melbourne City top the league, but did they then win?
They played in the grand final against Western United, but Western United beat them 2-0. So how it worked last year was 3rd played 6th and 4th played 5th in an elimination final, and then they'd work out to play 1st and 2nd in a 2-legged tie to make the grand final. So Western United looked a bit out. They were 1-0 down after the first leg against Melbourne Victory. And then they came back and won the tie 4-2 or something. So
it sounds similar to the promotion playoffs in the UK. So depending on where you finish, you play 3rd and 6th, 4th and 5th, and then obviously go to the finals. Yeah, very similar to that. So would you then get a trophy for top in the league as well as then, or do you not even get anything for finishing first? Is it more about the finals?
Yeah, you do. There's a Premier's plate that you get as well. That's celebrated as well. And then obviously we got the grand final. I don't actually think anyone's ever done the domestic treble here.
Oh, right. Okay.
In the one season. So hopefully something we can do.
Definitely. I'm just because again, just looking I'm actually on Wikipedia at the minute, just looking at like the amount of titles and stuff that each team has won. So who would be, so Sydney FC have been the champions the most, would you? And Melbourne Victory, so they the most two popular, or in terms of successful teams, would you say, during the league?
So they're the 2 biggest clubs in the country. Melbourne's a great atmosphere to play in front of at home. I experienced that for the first time last season. It was great. And then Sydney had a run for a few years where they were just top 2 for 5-6 years. Last season was probably the first season they underachieved, you could say. They've just built a new stadium as well in the middle of Sydney, so that'll be nice to play at as well. So they're sort of looking to rebuild this year, so that'll be
that was actually leading to one of my next questions, Liam. So what in terms of the stadiums and the size of the crowds and stuff, how, like, for example, what's your stadium? How big are we talking there, and do you get many people in on a match day?
Our stadium's about 20,000 seater. We get about 5,000-6,000 every week at the moment. Back in the day, you used to get 14,000-15,000, but the league sort of changed hands, and we're hoping it gets a bit bigger again. The sport went a little downhill probably in the last 4 years over COVID. Not much like marketing going on, but Australia making the World Cup will hopefully be big for it. Every year it's a World Cup, the sport gets bigger. So we were a bit dreading if we weren't going to make it. It looked a bit unlikely because it would have set the sport probably 10 years backwards here, but we made the World Cup and it was a big story. So
so who was it? South American team you beat in the, who was it? Peru? Or no?
Peru, we won in the penalty shootout. They subbed out Andrew Redmayne on.
Because in the UK, the team that I follow is Sunderland, So we have Bailey Wright as obviously one of our players. So obviously kind of followed the result at least to see. So what's your group like in the World Cup? Who have you got? Do you know can you remember who you guys have been drawn with? Or
We've got France, Denmark, and I can't remember who the other team is. We got nearly an identical group to last time.
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, France and Denmark were in our group last time, and
yeah, there's not an easy one then, really.
not the best. We got a draw with Denmark last time, so hopefully we can one up them this time, but it'll be a tough one.
So you got Tunisia as well. Tunisia.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So obviously that'll be probably, I'm presuming that'll be massive for the country, like to get into the World Cup and stuff. Hopefully that will give the whole A-League and stuff a bit of a push as well. So no, that is interesting. So then, in terms of you personally, then Liam, what do you like about being an analyst, and what is it that you like about your job, and sort of the pros of that really?
I just like being around the boys and feeling the result. When we get a good result and feeling that I helped out with that, that's a good feeling to have. And seeing the boys develop is something I just really enjoy, especially with the young boys I've seen since I've been here that have come through playing under 20s, 23s, and then mainstays in the first team. It's just great to see here.
Yeah. Is your league similar to the MLS where you have like a wage salary cap and things like that? Have you got to stick to and is that across? So every team has the same amount they can spend, bar maybe like a marquee player or something like that?
Yeah, so I think they changed it that you can have two international marquees, and you can have an Australian marquee, but we don't very often use that extra cap space. We just sit in the cap. Yeah. Okay. So then, in terms of then, you obviously mentioned that what you enjoy about the job, being involved and stuff. So did you play football even to not a great standard? Did you play it, and also did you coach as well? I played locally around the coast for a team called Wyong. I played for about 15 years, and then I gave it up once I started here because it clashed every weekend. So I just started doing this. But I sort of was around the grounds helping out while I was younger. My parents sort of ran our club for a while, so I was there every weekend. Both days, Saturday, Sunday, watching the games. And I played a little bit of reserve grade, first grade when I was younger, when I was about 16. So that's the best experience I've had playing. And then I've been here pretty much ever since. And then in terms of then in terms of coaching, do you have any coaching qualifications, or is it more just learning on the job and learning from the people that you're working with? No, I don't have any at the moment. I'm just looking into starting getting them through the FA here. But I haven't as such yet.
Yeah, so because again, that's kind of a topic I kind of speak to a lot of analysts about, in terms of some people say, analysts should have their qualifications, others it's not that important. I mean, what's your opinion on that? Obviously, you said you want to do them, so you must kind of value the what they would bring. So would you feel that would bring value to your position?
Yeah, I think like any bit of experience you can get can help, and it gives you a different perspective on the game and can help you develop yourself and other people around you. So it's definitely a good skill to have. Yeah.
And again, like even without them now, like I'm sure you are learning from experienced coaches like Nick and obviously the assistant and stuff, like the day-to-day, if you're around them, you're going to be picking things up. And if you are helping out, even like you said on match day, you're down helping out, see if they need anything on the pitch and stuff, then you're going to be picking up these things from experienced coaches, which is obviously going to benefit you and your knowledge really. So in terms of what's your kind of goals for the future then, Liam? Obviously, let's just kind of start this current season. So what is the goals for Central Coast Mariners this kind of coming season then? Are you better last season's position, or what's the realistic kind of target?
I think the good thing with Monty and Serge here is their goals are to win everything they can. They don't like losing, which is a good thing to have.
Yeah.
But they've set the boys a standard of winning the grand final. It's been 10 years since this club, well, at the end of the season, it'll be 10 years since we last won the grand final. Yeah. So that's a big thing Monty likes to drill into the boys. And I think we've got everything we need to do it. The boys are good. This club's underestimated a lot. And we were at the back end of last season, but we just kept proving people wrong. And that's something that's good to be here, giving the Coast a team that is good to watch and gets results. That's something that I think Monty's drilled into the boys to give the team, the coast, the team to like,
Yeah, nice.
to be proud of.
Yeah, definitely. So, and then in terms of then sort of moving even further, obviously you're quite young in your career. You're obviously starting. You've been there a few years, but in the obviously perspective, you are quite young. So, are you wanting to then build enhance the department there? Like, what's your personal goals?
Yeah, I'd love to. Like, I don't think I'll be here forever, but I do hope that I leave this place better than I found it. That's probably a goal of mine, and then other goals outside of this club. I'd love to work at the national team, go World Cup or something like that, and then even get over into Europe and England and try and sort of expand what I know and test myself out at a different level.
Yeah, because that is a question. So, and I brought this up with the chat with the MLS guy. Obviously, there's many analysts in the UK that would probably fancy as going out to America or Australia to kind of do analysis, but obviously it's depends on obviously visas and things like that. So, I mean, you might not even know the answer to this, Liam, but like if an analyst in the UK wanted to go out over to Australia, would they be able to get a visa for something like that? How would that even work or look?
I think it wouldn't be the hardest thing in the world. I think there's a club that's just brought in someone from Europe as a analyst as well. I haven't gotten to know him too well. He just sent me a message a few days ago about starting a group with all the analysts here. But I think it wouldn't be the hardest thing. There's definitely been analysts from overseas here. So it is possible.
Yeah, interesting. And then in terms of, because I'm just trying to work out how much opportunity there is in terms of jobs. So you mentioned obviously the academies, you've got some interns in the club already as well. So like in terms of not even just your academy, but the academies for the other teams as well, are they all kind of similar to your academy? So they'd have maybe a few interns in there, a couple of staff, or how do they look?
Yeah, depending on where you go, it's a bit different. I know Sydney sort of have interns throughout their whole academy. Western Sydney was similar a few years ago. I don't know about now. And then Melbourne, Victoria, Melbourne City have a lot of resources as well. But the further you go around the country, I'm not too sure how their academies look in terms of analysis. But I know we're trying to build it here and try and get some paid positions going here. But
yeah. So you say you wouldn't rule out a little move to Europe at some point in your career then, Liam? Fancy that?
Yeah, no, definitely would jump at the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, if you can do the job that you enjoy and you get to travel and you're young and stuff, you might as well take the opportunities when they come. So 100%, definitely. I think it would be exciting. And obviously there's probably more jobs. I mean, the competitive, but there's a lot of obviously analyst positions in England as well. So do you find that it's a common thing? Because in England, like people that are going, there's that many people that want to do it, like there's a lot more university modules, a lot more university courses literally just coming up now solely for analysis because it's kind of that popular at this stage. So you've got loads and loads of students every single year coming out, all kind of battling and fighting for the same jobs. Is that as popular over there for you guys, would you say? Or
I wouldn't say it's super popular. It's a market that's becoming more popular here, but not as big as it sounds in like Europe and stuff like that. But I think it will get there in a few years. There's no specific degrees here. I think a university around here is actually looking at starting a degree in analysis. But obviously, we also have loads of sports here. We got cricket, rugby league, rugby union. Loads of sports that have different analysis markets as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, where would you say football or soccer falls in the ranking of? So you've obviously mentioned cricket, rugby. So would it slot in just under them, or is there even other sports that are above?
So playing wise, it's the most played sport here, but viewership wise at the professional level, it's a lot lower. Rugby league's massive here. So is cricket. We sort of compete with cricket more than we do rugby league because our seasons overlap. So rugby league's on at the moment. They're just coming to the end now. But when we come up against cricket, which we do compete well. But I'd say we're not the biggest sport watch-wise, probably fifth or sixth in this country.
Yeah. And then in terms of just going back again to opportunities, like different types of analysts. So is there anybody in your club, and maybe you do this, or maybe it's more of like a GM role, but like recruitment analysis? So in terms of like bringing players in, would you have anything to do with that in terms of like clipping and tagging them, or is that somebody else's responsibility?
I'm not involved very much in that. Stamati, who I work with, he does a little bit involved with that, and then he works alongside Monty Surge.
Yeah.
Our head of football will do a little bit involved in it too, and a few people make it up, but not so much me.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's interesting. Because again, it's just another role. So if you kind of compare your position to, in England, you would have usually a first team analyst. You might also, depending on obviously the level, you might have someone that's solely doing the opposition and someone that's doing obviously your team. You may have then a recruitment analyst. You may also have like a data analyst as well. Again, not every team has all of these roles. It's budget dependent, but then you've got like the head of academy analysis. There might be 3 or 4 in the academy that do that as well. So yeah, but again, it just comes down to the size of the club and the location and where they compete and stuff. So one thing I do like to ask all kind of analysts that I've got on here, Liam, is kind of just advice really. So if you could, speak to a student at this point, let's say he's midway through his degree and he wants to do the same thing that you're doing, he wants to be an analyst, what kind of things would you say to that person in terms of advice? What's kind of worked for you, and just any tips really?
Just sort of, you got to work hard. There's lots of hours involved. The days sometimes feel like they never end, but you've just got to work hard, put your head down, take all the advice on board. There'll be good days and bad days. Sometimes you'll hear stuff you don't want to hear, but it's always going to be good for you.
Yeah.
Everyone's trying to help around in a good environment. Everyone's trying to help you grow. And that's what we sort of have here. And there's definitely been days where I felt like I just want to throw in the towel, but they go away quite quickly and then the better days come. So it's,
there's always the good that kind of outshine the bad. But like you said, even the fact that you're working with elite coaches and players, it's a good environment to be in, because you're always going to probably better yourself at that point. It's a high working environment. So yeah, definitely. So you mentioned there obviously working hard, etc. Then we mentioned obviously the visa situation, like that could be a thing. So I mean that is quite interesting in terms of, I think there probably would be roles out there for people if they wanted to make the move, but I suppose it's a case of networking and reaching out to people that maybe done something similar to find out the best way to kind of do it. So just kind of moving forward towards the end of the questions I've got down here, Liam. So you may not have any, but what I do also like to ask is, do you have any recommendations of any books, any podcasts or anything? And again, these don't have to be sport related, just anything that you kind of find interesting that others may do so too.
I actually just listen to sort of podcasts about football just to hear different people's advice.
Yeah.
Ben Foster puts a funny podcast out and gives a bit more of advice over to a bit more of a insight into like UK football, and he's got the player aspect, and that's something you don't see so much from my side. We don't see what the players think, but yeah, just sort of podcasts that you listen about football. You can never stop learning. That's something I like to tell people, is you can never stop learning, and you can learn something new every day.
Yeah, Ben Foster's podcast is quite good. He's had some good guests on there so far. So cool. So any points you want to kind of add in, Liam? Anything that we've not spoke about? Anything you want to bring up, give a shout out to, or anything?
Not that I can think of. I think we've crossed everything.
No, so I will ask you a question. What's Australia's chances in the World Cup? Do you think you've got a chance of getting out of that group?
It's a little bit biased, but I reckon we can snag second spot.
You reckon?
I reckon we can. I got faith in the boys.
Yeah, no.
We'll have a few ex-Mariners around there, so I think we can get it done. There's a few that will pop up in there. Kai Rolls was massive for us last season, and he's just gone to Hearts.
Yeah.
And he played 120 in the knockout game before the Pens, and he'll be a rock at the back if he gets a chance in the World Cup. And Lewis Miller might be there as well. He's gone to Hibs. Birigitti's gone to Dundee. He might be around as keeper. You never know. Matt Ryan might be there, but he's an ex-Mariner as well. So
yeah, it's interesting that you said obviously the few that have gone to Scotland, like the Scots are obviously going over to Australia and looking and finding these players. So that's that's quite interesting to see. So, I mean, you need to get Tim Cahill out of retirement. He's like Tim Cahill used to score against Sunderland every single time he played. So he was like, oh, I'll never see it.
He's great. Now, on that Scotland point, it's actually funny to think because a year ago, everyone was sort of talking about when Celtic hired Ange Postecoglou and who is this guy and doubting him. And now, like I read an article about how good, I think it was the Norwich manager said he was playing against him. Ange is sort of a pioneer in Europe at the moment for coaches and players from Australia. So it's got a lot of eyes, the Scottish League on Australia. And there's a fair few that have gone over there this off-season, 10 or 11, I think. And it's interesting to see.
Yeah, I didn't know that. So yeah, that's it. That is very interesting. Kind of keep an eye on that. So yeah, because again, it's all rules on who, you know, the types of players you can sign in different leagues and different stuff. So I'm not too clued up on that anymore. But yeah, it is interesting that obviously there's not just one or two. There seems to be quite a few making the move from Australia to Scotland. So that's very interesting. So yeah, I mean that's brilliant, Liam. I've kind of gone through the points I want to ask you. Again, really thank you for joining me and kind of jumping on. I know it's kind of late on your end, so if anyone's got any questions, obviously feel free to leave a comment below. But other than that, Liam, really thanks for your time, and yeah, good luck for this. And before you go, you got to give me a prediction. What you're going to do this season? You've given me the National League prediction. What's the Central Coast prediction?
I'm hoping we can make that finals position, try and win the cup, and give a real shot in the league. I think it's something we can do, and we've got a young team, but the boys have experience as it is at the moment, and lots of energy, and I reckon we can do a good job around the league this season.
Nice, perfect. Well, yeah, I will keep an eye on your results anyway, Liam. But yeah, thanks again, and you have a great evening.
Thanks, Chris.
Cheers.